Okay, I'm ready to call the meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Hartke.
Here.
Kibler.
Here.
Maxwell.
Here.
Quisenberry.
Here.
Rosales.
Here.
Schwartz.
Yes, here.
James.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I need a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. Next, we have public participation. I'm going to go in the order that I got them in. So, Mr. Baumberger, you're first since you were second.
I just wanted to briefly point out that at the end of 2012, County Board appropriated, as we're going to go over later, about $70,000 to fix up the downtown jail, in addition to $120,000 to renovate this room, which to me indicates that there is, in fact, money to be spent by the county on things which it deems particularly important. $200,000 could fund 8 to 10 full-time positions in a pre-trial mental health diversion program. Thank you.
Mr. Richards?
Hi, I'm Michael Richards, Democratic Caucus Chairman. I just wanted to say to the committee that I'm a little bit disappointed with this agenda tonight and this facilities overview, and I hope that it doesn't reflect the priorities for the next 2 years. I hope you all understand that there's a lot more that facilities should be doing than that I'm pretty sure that the voters want facilities to be doing than simply fixing roofs and whatnot. We don't have a great history on energy efficiency the last several years, and I certainly hope that will change. In fact, we've had the opportunity to get no-match Illinois energy efficiency grants, and the last couple terms, there's at least one occasion which I have sitting in my email to refresh me right here, in which it was served up by the state, and we didn't even follow up on that grant money. And so I hope that we take advantage of the nearly $100 million that the Department of Commerce has solely for local governments for no-match energy efficiency programs. And we remember this as part of our fiscal responsibility here to taxpayers. We pay several $100,000 a year for commodities and utilities, and we have buildings that certainly are not efficiency-wise state-of-the-art. And I know we're stretched thin here staff-wise, but if we put our minds to it, we could find plenty of things that we can increase the efficiency on and save taxpayers money while getting free money from the state. And so I hope we look into doing this term.
Next, I have a blank one. Is that you by chance, Mr. J? Okay. That's it for public communication. Next is communications. Anybody have any? Anything, Alan, or?
I do.
Go ahead, Mr. Quisenberry.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be at the county board meeting where I was nominated to be assistant chair. And I did want to say something. I was asked to be assistant chair because the other individual who was approached for that position decided not to accept it. I told Mr. Kurtz that I would accept it on a temporary basis. I don't intend to be assistant chair for the next 2 years. I'm hoping that other individuals will see fit to step up and contribute to the leadership of the board as we go forward. But I am ready. I'm ready to serve in the capacity, but I don't intend to do it for the full 2 years.
Okay, next is we have the overview of facilities. And Alan, you want to go through that a little bit?
Certainly.
This is a very basic overview. There's no way comprehensive of everything that we do in a physical plant. Basically, we have the 18 county-owned buildings of its almost 800,000 square feet of property that we have to take care of under roof. The 7 major buildings, which are the courthouse, sheriff's office, the adult detention facility, the Brookins Administration Center, ILEAS Training Center, Juvenile Detention Center, and the Emergency Management Building, are our main buildings that we have to, it takes our attention to work every day of the week, and at least 4 or 5 of them. And so on a weekly basis, we're always either at the highway coroner's office or then maybe in the animal facilities building. We also support the nursing home as needed and report to all on-calls whenever there's an evening or weekend or holidays. And of course, there are multiple outbuildings which make up the total of the 18. The physical plant staff. We have 3 different divisions: custodian, grounds, and maintenance workers. And of course, we all interact with each other and support each other as needed. The custodians, we have 10.5 full-time equivalents, which is, it's kind of hard to understand that because we have several that work 4 hours at a time for the lesser buildings, and then we have the courthouse and the Brookins Administration Building are staffed with 8-hour or 7.5-hour employees. So 2 of the custodians who are working at the Brookins Building are classified also as custodian mail service. So they work custodial services in the morning. They make a mail run to the courthouse, pick up the mail from there, bring it back to this building, process the mail, and have it prepared for pickup by our mail service, which then takes it to the post office and sorts it and does what it. The grounds division, we've adjusted this last year because of the retirements of a couple of our employees. So we've adjusted our workforce to try to utilize seasonal workers, much like the city of Urbana and the city of Champaign do in the summertime. We'll hire seasonal workers to work with the mowing, help with the mowing and trimming and the grounds care. And basically that's about 50 acres out here in the East Campus with less than an acre downtown of area we take care of. And then in the winter months, we're following the highway department's strategy, and we have our 1 full-time grounds employee, and then as needed, whenever a snow event occurs, we have multiple people that have signed up to be willing to come in and help us plow snow and spread salt as needed. When the event is over, we're done with them. They go home until the next event. That's going to be something new we've never done before, but I think this is hopefully will save us some money in labor and give us more employees to yes.
Is this similar to like the IDOT Snowbird kind of program where you're just basically hourly employees only on when you need them?
Similar, yes. That's what we based it off of. Okay, in the maintenance division, we have 3 different skills of maintenance workers. Entry level is what we consider a maintenance worker. We have 9 full-time positions, but right now we're down to 8, and so we're trying to hire more employees to get back up to full staff. The maintenance worker, as I said, is usually at entry level, and they need to learn the buildings, the systems in the buildings, and they take care of the basic nuts and bolts. The senior maintenance workers are typically more skilled and have more experience, and they support the maintenance workers. And then skilled trades employees are usually licensed in a trade or have a specialized training or certification in HVAC, refrigeration, building automation systems, electrical license or plumbing or something like that. And of course, they support the other divisions and work with specialized projects where if we do major repairs to the equipment or so on. Now, as a basic seasonal overview, the busiest part of the year is in the springtime, where we have to clean all the air conditioning systems and get them ready to go. And it takes several days, several weeks, depending on the buildings. This particular building, if I may, Brookins, it has approximately 23 individual small rooftop units. Each one takes quite a bit of time to clean, prepare, change filters, and make sure it's ready. And it has 2 large central air conditioning units. So it's quite a bit of work every year to get this. This is what our employees do when you don't see them behind the scenes. They're up on a roof or down in a mechanical room or doing something on the equipment. And of course, then, once we get it cleaned and prepared, we have to test run it, fire it, and make sure it's operational. So when it's time for cooling, we can put them online. We follow the same sequence, again, during the summer, especially if it's been hot and dry. Everything needs cleaned again, prepared, so when we get into hot dog days of August and stuff, it's working to its maximum efficiency. Late fall, once again, is another busy time. It's not quite as hectic as summer because we do not have in-detailed work on boilers, but as we do on air conditioning systems. But we do have 5 steam boilers that we have to take apart, tear down for inspection. We open them up completely, open up all the cut-off valves and stuff, and then we have them inspected by the state inspector. And once they pass the inspection, we put them back together, fill them up, check for leaks, put them online, and get ready for the heating season. Each individual, as I said earlier, each individual building has a different set of parameters, and some of the buildings have multiple units of large and small. Some of them have very inefficient units and very old. Some of them are state-of-the-art and new. The courthouse has got the most, of course, as being the newest addition and remodeled building. It has the most energy-efficient equipment we could afford when it was built at that time, with a full building automation system. Computerized, of course, where we can monitor and adjust thermostats and check steam pressures and cooling water temperatures right from a desktop computer. This building was one of the oldest we have. It has virtually no state-of-the-art equipment. We're still working with 30-year-old boilers, 30-year-old air conditioners, and multiple new individual rooftops. Some of them are new, some of them are, once again, 15, 20 years old also. So you see there's a large hodgepodge of different type of equipment that these guys have to take care of. The additional responsibilities of the physical plant was we have to assist and make sure that all of the elevators are inspected in each building annually, fire alarm systems annually, some of them biannually. All the fire extinguishers, backflow preventers, all those kind of things take time of our staff where we have to get the inspectors in. We have to escort them through the buildings, unlock the doors, especially in the jails. We have to escort them through the secure areas. And this is done by all departments. If the maintenance department is completely full, sometimes we'll ask custodial staffs to escort them through the buildings too, if they're just checking the extinguishers. We all just work together to get this done. Additional work requested daily by other departments is tracked by what we call the help desk, maintenance help desk, which is a program that's supplied by IT through Microsoft Word, I think, that all users, excuse me, not all county employees, a select group of employees at each department send work requests to the help desk, which we sort, prioritize, and assign as needed. And it's how we track, that's how we keep track of what we have done. It's how we keep track of what needs to be done so we don't forget it. And then we can kind of get an idea when we're done, just how busy we've been. And on top of that, we have the requests for remodelings, carpet replacements, painting. As we have time, we try to get to. We do not have the staff now that we had in the past, where we had skilled carpenters and more people that was able to do small remodeling projects. We are trying to focus now with what we have, just working on maintenance and repair of the buildings to keep things up. So That is a very, very basic overview of the physical plant operation, how it works and what we do for the new members, and a refresher to some of the older people. Got any more questions or anything about this?
Rosales.
My question is regarding hourly workers, temporary workers, seasonal workers. Do we have any liability insurance on them? If anything occurs while they're working for us on the job, who is responsible for their medical hospitalization bill, if any?
Of course, all the full-time workers are, they have full-time or union employees, and they have all the benefits of any other county employee, including insurance, all that stuff. The seasonal workers are officially employees, and they're covered by workman's comp and all the other general rules, but they do not receive any benefits such as sick leave, hospitalization insurance, or anything like that.
Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How do we advertise? Do we have a personnel policy for advertising and selecting these part-time temporary people for the summer work? And do we try to also encourage minorities to apply for those jobs? Thank you.
We advertise for all these jobs through the News Gazette and according to the county policy. We've added to we create the list once the applicants have been received. We review their experience, obviously. Let's see, what else was it?
Well, if I may, you were asking about minority personnel. There was a thing at one time when Mr. Beckett was chair of this committee several years ago that we tried to set up a minority listing of contractors that were minority owned, and anything, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that was 20,000 or less. How much? 30,000 or less could be awarded without going out for bid, such as if we were doing a major painting job or what have you, but they still had to be qualified. You still got to meet insurance, workman's comp. I mean, these are just normal everyday things when you write a contract. It's not like Alan or anybody can go out and just say, yeah, I'll hire you because I know you, and then if they mess up or do something bad, who's on the hook? The county would be, so you've still got to have them parameters.
May I follow up?
Go ahead. No, you're off.
That's for minority contractors, but I'm talking about these 2 or 3 summer employees that we employ for miscellaneous maintenance, mowing, that sort of thing. Do we encourage maybe some of the minorities to apply for those particular positions?
Well, absolutely. We encourage all minorities to apply for any positions, and we do not discriminate. If anyone's qualified and has got the experience, we consider them for this position, yes.
Jeff?
Thank you for that good overview. Just really curious as to why, and perhaps Deb could give the answer pretty quickly too, but why is the nursing home maintenance staff separated, it looks like, from the rest of the county?
I think Deb could probably explain that to you a little bit better, but as I understand it, they have their own funding budget, so they hired their own employees, even though we support them. That's the general explanation for that.
I would also say that the maintenance staff at the nursing home fills kind of combined responsibilities. We have custodial staff and we have maintenance workers. I think the nursing home maintenance workers cover both areas. And so, and our maintenance staff is still called upon to assist with major systems at the nursing home, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious about synergistic effects. If we ever needed them to come over to do something from the nursing home, does that happen? Or is it mostly just we go there?
Yes, it does not happen. They do not come and support us. We support them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Quiz?
Yeah, first a comment. It's probably similar to the University of Illinois, where the housing building service workers are part of housing, whereas the academic building service workers are part of the FNS, because taking care of a place where people live 24 hours a day is a little bit different than taking care of a academic building or a business office. So it's a different work environment at the nursing home than it would be supporting an office building. My question was a little bit of history. Alan, at one point, did we go out and look at either Maximo or Maximus, one of those two vendors, as a tracking tool for facilities, tickets and PM and things like that?
No, we have not.
We've not looked at software to track that? Okay. So all of our inventory of major systems and roofs and things like that is tracked in Word, and the age and such is tracked in like Microsoft Word or Excel?
That is correct.
Okay. And do we have a set of criteria for those major systems, other than if they break, we work on them, for how we try to replace them? I mean, are roofs on a 20-year cycle for a certain kind of maintenance, or a 30-year cycle, something like that?
Several years ago, before we went into our recession, if I may, we tried to set up, and we did start setting up a program to schedule replacement of the equipment, but that has fallen by the wayside over the last several years. Currently, we do not have any type of scheduled funding for replacement of any of this equipment.
But if I decided to ask you for a summary of our major systems, its age and its expected life, is that easy for you to prepare, or is that a time-consuming process?
That would be time-consuming, and it could be done.
Because if we want to, one of the things I'm hoping that we're going to do over the next 2 years is, or maybe sooner, is develop a maintenance plan, a facilities master plan that's not just, new needs. And it feels like we're going to need that kind of information to go out and start to build that plan. I'm totally familiar with this, being on campus, whose middle name is deferred maintenance, and I know, what's out there, what's potentially out there that we need to work on, but until we can kind of quantify it and prioritize it, it's hard to make that list and work through it. But I also respect the fact that we've got things we need to do on an operational basis. So if I go out and ask you to make a whole bunch of reports and such, that's going to impact either your time or your staff's time and such. I just wanted to get a better idea of what I'd be asking for in that circumstance.
Okay.
A couple of comments, if I may, because I did meet with Alan and Deb, and what Quisenberry has talked about is some of the things we discussed. I had some of the same questions. I've been on this county board now for over 10 years. Been on several smaller committees that were assigned by different individuals and chair people to look at all these needs, and then it goes to the wayside. Some of the things I heard earlier about grant money, utility costs, all that sort of up in the air all the time, fluctuating. And even when you do upgrades cost money. It's not always a money saver. My focus, and what I told Deb and Alan, and I have told Mr. Kurtz this, and I'm hoping we go this way, is Alan and I have talked that he's going to sit down. He's going to get a list on every building, which we started with here. I didn't know we had 18 buildings. I'm sure everybody else in this room didn't know that. He's going to sit down and he's going to look at each building as time allows, because like everything else in life, you have people on sick leave, vacation time, and other duties that pop up, so you can't just sit down and always be doing paperwork. And I appreciate a man that's always out in the field instead of behind a desk. But I am in hopes that he'll sit down with each building, look at what it needs, look at when the roofs were done, when the central air was done, when the heating was done. And then Mr. Beckett had also, and we worked on this for 2 years, if I recall, in the committee that we were all on, we did a tour of the buildings, and we even put out a wish list to each department. And we came back with a lot of things, because as Deb has mentioned and others have mentioned, we sit in here with new desk and carpet, but some of these offices haven't seen some of that stuff for years. And those are things that we need to really focus on, set funds aside. I've said for years, when I hear things come up, whether it be 2,000, 10,000, 14,000, that's money that should be going back into our buildings, and the roofs and some of the other things are the major items, because if we don't maintain those, you're gonna have other issues that you're always fighting and needing done. And so the major things need to be looked at. Some of the new upgrades, if the grants are there and they can be had without matching dollars and not a lot of staff time go into them, that's fine. But some of that's wish list. I don't know how many LED lights you can put in and how much money you'd save, because you still need people turning them off. So the things I'm hoping we focus on is the upkeep, the maintenance, the painting. How often is the nursing home painted? It's one of our buildings that are used by the public more than anywhere, you know, and we should be on top of that. We've just heard about the sheriff's building, which that's going to be in this report. Some of that stuff has been let go for years, and it shouldn't have been. And those are things that really, as a county, instead of worrying about building a new building or possibly always upgrading with windmills or what have you, if the money's there, that's fine. But we really need to take care of what we have, or we won't have anything. And case in point is just drive around Champaign or Urbana, look at all the buildings that are always having leaky roofs and coming down. And I think Alan and his staff, based on my knowledge, and like Quiz said, I've worked in public housing most of my life and other housing for different corporations. If you don't maintain what you have, pretty soon you have nothing, and it's absolutely worth nothing. And for the staff he has and for the area they cover and the outside area they got to take up, I commend them. You know, I really do. It's a lot of work. Any of you that work at home on your own little items, sometimes you think you got an hour job and it turns into 15 hours, especially if somebody's leaning over your shoulder telling you what to do. So I commend them all. I think we're going to move forward with that. I'm always open to suggestions and ideas, and I'm glad when people present them. But I do hope that our focus is to maintain our buildings and to let our folks that serve us and serve the residents and the citizens get some things they deserve to make their jobs a little easier. So thank you. Any other questions? If not, we'll move on. Next one is physical plant monthly reports. I think I'll let Alan give them before we have a motion in a second. That way we know what we're going to motion in a second about. You want to go ahead? And
Certainly. On page 5 of your agenda packet is the end of the year physical plant monthly expenditure report, targeting information just on the gas, electric, water, and sewer, and the major buildings, repair and maintenance line items. As you can see, this year has been very good to us for our gas service. I believe at the end of this year, we have a remaining balance of $137,000, almost $138,000 left in the natural gas line item. And the funds that are shown in the Brookings repair and maintenance balance was, I believe, was there, but I think was re-encumbered into this year's budget, which was mainly funds that were put into this room. Okay. All right.
I'm assuming most of the reason why we have that savings in gas is because it was a record hot year. But I'm curious how our allocation for this year's budget compared to last year's budget. Had we put some extra in anticipating higher gas prices, or was it pretty level from year to year?
Probably about 2010, I think, we corrected these line items. The gas service and electric service had historically not been budgeted at a high enough level. So we are consistently budgeting them at $400,000 a year for gas and $900 for electric, and it's sustainable. I mean, as far as we can tell at this point, I mean, last year weather-wise was kind to us, but those numbers have sustained those costs since we budgeted at those levels. And some years it's very close. This year it was a little better. Does that answer?
Just clarification, the actual for 10-11, is that a budget number? When it says fiscal?
That's the actual ending, we always list the last fiscal year, not what was budgeted, but what actually occurred.
So, what is, okay, so how do I read fiscal year 1011 as percent of actual? I'm trying,
I don't do this report, so I can't
well, yeah,
answer
I
that.
didn't- I'm trying to figure,
Are you on that third line, fiscal year 1011 as percentage of actual?
well, I thought the first one was fiscal year to date was the actual. I mean, that was my reading, but I might be wrong. And then I thought fiscal year 1011 actual might be the budget. 'Cause
Actually, November 30th, 2011 sometimes is not the final, and I don't, was this updated as of December 31st? Okay, so this is not actually.
this is a year ago,
This is,
so-
well, even this year, this is not probably the final actual, because we still post expenses in December to the prior fiscal year. So if this wasn't and it probably wasn't, because this went out last week and we didn't have those numbers in yet.
So 1011?
Okay, so what I'm telling you, as of November 30th, we don't have the whole 12 months of expenditure in. So that percent of actual, it would be what the year-to-date was as a percent of the total actual for the fiscal year. So you can see that for fiscal year 1011, as of November 30th, on gas, we had spent $328. We ended up at $355,604. Because we post expenditures in December.
So the first column is useless, basically.
The first column is what?
It's like,
It's where we were as of November 30th, 2011.
right.
And then on this, if moving over, then you have where we were as of November 30th, 2012. I would say we're probably not done. We probably didn't
Right.
end up 138,000 to the good on gas service by the time we post what we paid in December.
Okay. So I'm just thinking, in general, it would probably be helpful to put maybe what the budget was. You know, I'm trying to figure out what that basically tells me how many of the invoices haven't been turned in by the end of the year. I mean, what am I supposed to figure out?
Rachel, you're going all the way, you're confusing
You have the
me.
budget for 2012. It's listed
Right,
there.
right, but what's the point of figure out in 10?
Or you're looking at 2011?
Last year, yeah.
Okay, well, the budget isn't shown there. I think what they're trying to show you is what the actual usage was, $355,000 is what it actually ended up as. On 11/30, that's what it was reported as, but as Deb just said, there's times in December they go back and post some money. So the actual, if I'm
Right.
hearing her correct, ended up being a little higher than what was first shown. So it was 92% of the budget. So then you come over to 2012, and she's telling you that the budget is 400,000 because they increased it. And then on 11/30, original budget, the budget was 396. I guess it was lowered. Okay. And then the next line is year-to-date was 258, but as what Deb has just now said is December bills will now be posted, and that percentage can go up, and that's what happened in 2011. But we don't need to see 2011's budget because we already know that was actual, and it was 92% of the budget.
Well, the only reason it's relevant is to see how close the budgets are to actual.
Well, you know, and
I mean,
if that's what you like, that's fine. We can probably look at that. But to me, utility costs go up. That budget back in 2011 isn't going to make a mox next to 2012 or 2013. It's really not. I mean, when I go buy gasoline, when I was 20 years old, it was 21 cents. So I could set my budget and compare it all day long. I got to pay $3 a gallon now. I got to pay it. So, I mean, we got the percentages. I mean, to me, the report is fine. It's just probably the way you're interpreting it.
oh, yeah, absolutely. Well,
Okay.
no, it has nothing to do with the report. It's how I interpret it, no doubt. I was just trying to figure out what am I supposed to take away from that, and I figured, obviously, you won't have the bills for the year.
Right.
For obvious reasons.
So-
So is that the purpose to figure out that usually by this time, we only got 90, whatever, percent?
So what she's telling us is by next month, these figures for 2012 will be
that's obvious.
correct. And then you'll know. And then going on for 2013's budget, we should be able, until the end of the year.
Right, but that's always happens, right? That you don't get the bills, I mean, that's nothing unique to any of these items.
No, you really don't start paying bills until the
Right.
second month of the fiscal year usually,
Yeah.
and then you pay the last month in the 13th, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to drag this on too long, but I think what's part of the confusion here is that the definition of fiscal year as percent of actual, the way it's calculated in 2010, 2011 is different than how it's calculated in 2011, 2012. So for example, if you take the first number divided by the second number of 328 divided by 355 is 92.33. Whereas what I think the number is supposed to be is 355 divided by the actual budget that was given. But that's not what's happening in this spreadsheet for fiscal year 10 and 11. So if maybe we can adjust that fiscal year 10, 11 actual as a percentage of budget, then it would coincide with the right side and it would kind of jive together.
Or change the title, basically says what was known on November 30th as percentage of what eventually transpired as, I mean, it's really, like you said, it's a matter of not interpreting the thing
Alan's got
correct.
that down. I was just trying to snow you all with my numbers, but thanks.
Fantastic.
Quiz.
I was just going to say, I think it's useful to have the year-to-date because it's a snapshot. So if you want to compare what November 30th was last year and what it was this year, that snapshot is a useful comparison, but I would find it much more useful if the budget figure was also in there and we had a percentage of the budget, actual to budget, than of the snapshot of the actual.
The rest.
On page 6 is a three-year history, including this year, of the building efficiency report for the Brookins Administration Building and for the courthouse. We have been tracking those buildings specifically because of the grant funds that we received for the lighting upgrades that we installed 2 years ago. And as you can see, the basic information is, these are 12-month totals. They are not necessarily comparing the exact dates from one year to the next just because of the billing cycles of the utility companies and our energy provider. As requested the last time, we have included heating degree days and cooling degree days, and I installed those columns in the appropriate size for the electricity, for the cooling degree days, and then the heating degree days on the natural gasoline side. There is a small decline from the Brookins building. If you look at the next to the last column on the right side, total cost per square foot, that is a combination of the natural gas cost per square foot and the electricity cost per square foot of each building. So as you can see, in 2009 and 10, we were at $1.78 per square foot. As of this last year, we are at $1.70 per square foot. Most of that is attributed to the reduction in the electrical use for the courthouse, which is largely attributed to the the electricity purchasing co-op that we're participating in with the currently using Integris in partnership through the Champaign County Chamber of Commerce. Courthouse building efficiency shows that we are reducing our total cost per square foot a little bit each year from 2009 and 10, $2.76 per square foot, down to currently this past year, it's $2.60 per square foot. Yes.
Do you have any idea why we did so well on gas year over year at the courthouse while we increased a little bit for gas at Brookins when we had such a warm year?
That would have to be attributed to the age of the equipment we have at this building. We have multiple gas-fired individual rooftop units that run whenever it's necessary, as opposed to the courthouse where we have a large central heating and cooling plant, which are designed to be more efficient than the type of burners that we have on in this building.
Is it also possible that people were running heat when they didn't need to?
That would usually be
This season?
shown, that will be usually be showing on the electricity side because they will plug in electric space heaters everywhere. And we control the unit heaters, the rooftop units, where the employees typically do not.
Okay, because it seems to be a pretty striking difference.
It is. And if you remember, we are still operating on 30-year-old boilers in this building, and some of the rooftop units on pod 100, 200, and 300 up here are some of the original equipment that we inherited when we purchased this building in 1995.
And they were installed in the mid-'70s? Is that the age of the original equipment?
I have some of the records, yes,
Yeah, okay.
some of it was there.
Thank you.
And if I could follow up on that, I would think when you look at insulation and windows and some other values, that all comes into play when you're talking heating and cooling cost. Rachel?
So that might be totally ignorant, definitely an ignorant question, but I'll ask anyway. Why is the courthouse more expensive per square foot, considering it's a newer building? Like you said, this is our newest building. I'm sure I'm not understanding something that they're doing different, or maybe we have storage space that we don't heat here or something, but why is it that we pay so much more on the courthouse per square foot than in this old building?
Well, once again, I have to say that's, most of that would be attributed to the actual design of the building, where even at the courthouse, you can see that the cost per square foot for the natural gas is quite a bit higher than the cost per square foot for the Brookings Administration Building. The design of that building for the climate control for the courts, records, and all that type of equipment, we have to run at least one very large boiler all year round for dehumidification process, where they designed it for we're running the air conditioning system. It cools the air. We supply the cool air, which is dehumidified, through the ductwork system, and then we have individual fan coil units that reheat the air to a temperature of desired 68 to 70 degrees. So that is the major reason why there's more natural gas usage for that building than the Brookings.
Also, there's 51,000 more square feet.
Well, I'm looking at cost per square foot.
Yeah.
So both the electric and the gas is because of the documents or whatever else they have to maintain there?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I almost turned you off.
I have supplied you with information I think will hopefully be helpful for us, useful to us in the future. I have backed up the entire last year, and I have supplied an building efficiency report for the sheriff's office for electricity and natural gas, and for the adult detention facility electricity and natural gas, just to be used as a resource if needed in the future. It could also be, if you would look at the sheriff's office in comparison, the total cost per square foot is approximately $1.80 a square foot. Compare that to the Brookings Administration Building of $1.75 or 78 cents a square foot. So that particular building designed is close to that type. That design is the way that building is designed is close to this with the systems, and it's an equal type building. The adult detention facility, as you can see, if you look at the same total cost per square foot, is at $3 and roughly 32 cents a square foot, or 30 cents a square foot. That is quite a bit higher than the cost per square foot at the sheriff's office downtown. One major reason that the cost per square foot at the adult detention facility is a lot higher is because it has, this last year, it has all the food service equipment where they cook all meals for all inmates at the sheriff's office, at the juvenile detention center, and for the adult detention facility. Last year, most all of the laundry for all three of those buildings also went through this adult detention facility. So this is, once again, those are all mainly natural gas fired equipment, so it takes quite a bit more use in there. That's the end of the reports then. Is there any questions on that?
Jeff?
I'd like to move to approve, or receive and place on file both the expenditures and the building efficiency. Oh, doesn't.
We've got a motion on the floor, so I'm gonna need a second. I've got a second. Now you
Put on my tree hugger hat for the moment, because I think that this is important, and we see that the numbers are coming down, I think, in the cost per square foot, and I'm sure some of that's probably due to the very good co-op that we've been involved with, but hopefully some of it's been to some steps. But it does concern me as a new guy here to hear that there are grants that we're not taking advantage of when it comes to energy efficiency. Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, I've spoken to some people over there, and they have free money basically under Illinois Energy now that we don't even have to have matching money for, as I understand it. I know that, you know, to me, free money's free money, and I know people are busy. I would ask one question. Does your staff have a person or perhaps access to someone on Deb's staff who can write grants for these kinds of projects?
In the past, we do not have anyone that writes grants
Right.
on our staff or in administrative services. In the past, I have attempted to and did write the grant applications for the lighting upgrades for the courthouse in Brookings, but we do not have anyone that really experienced a professional with it.
Okay, that might be something we need to look into in the future, because it seems to me that if there's like thousands, you know, to spend $10,000 now to save six figures down the road on. And I know that some people may not be looking as far ahead as I am in this room, but I certainly am. And over the next, 10 to 20 years, saving, showing real money savings. Because I look at here and I see, we're spending 7 figures a year on energy in this county, minimal. That seems like an awful big number that could, the low-hanging fruit is the first to go for when you're trying to save nickels and dimes, in my opinion. And there's got to be places in there where we can. We'll hopefully be able to find some more resources to look into these grants and things. But believe me when I say that every month when I come back here, I'm going to be asking about these things, about new ideas, because this is a continuing thing. When I was at IDOT, I was in charge of facilities down in District 5, and we implemented simple things like lights out in the bathroom when you're not in there and things like that. I went around and turned the lights off in the facility at the end of the day every day, and eventually 3 numbers showed up on a 5-figure bill that we were saving, a couple $100 here and a couple $100 there, and as they say in Washington, soon you've got billions. So, I would really like to see us look into these. For one question, when was the last time the major buildings had an energy audit done?
It's been multiple years since we've had an energy audit completed. Okay. The last audit, I believe, was in 2007. Is that, I believe?
Would that report be available, perhaps? I'd love to be able to look at that, and I'd like to see, and maybe look at where, what did we follow through on that report, and what has changed in the last 5 years. This is a technological area that's moving with leaps and bounds, so, what has changed in the last 5 years that we can look forward to over the next 2, ways to address this, and, in the long run, over the next 10 to 20 years here on this county. So this is something that I'm going to find important, and I'm not going to be a hard ass about it, but I will be pushing on it, and I hope we can find success, because I think energy, even conservatives would want to conserve energy. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Quisenberry?
Yeah, I'd like to echo that comment. I mean, we're in a good community for finding even part-time grant writing resources. So if the barrier to taking advantage of some of these opportunities has been staff time, I think that's a place where we could spend, several thousands of dollars to get back several tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I would support part-time grant work if we needed it.
Mr. Kibler?
Just a quick question on their aggregation co-op. With Urbana now entering in their own co-op, What is the price difference between the two, and is there potential cost savings by looking at other alternatives to who supplies our power?
Currently, we're with the Chamber of Commerce Co-op purchasing, and we are currently under contract with Integris and with a new contract already accepted with the Fighting Illini Energy. I do not know what the city of Urbana cost is for the natural gas or electricity. So I can try to find out and answer that question for you.
Gary? Patsy? I would also say, and I don't know if we can, but RPC does some beautiful grants. But Mr. Harkey, in response to some of your stuff, I encourage new things, and I like new things, and gizmos are great, computers are great, cell phones are great, all that stuff is great. But sometimes when I look at the big picture, and I've worked in the field many, many years, and I've seen a lot of upgrades, once you have an upgrade, your staff has to be trained to maintain those upgrades. And sometimes upgrades aren't always what we think they are, because like with new furnaces, there's igniters, there's different things that go out a lot faster than the normal stuff. So sometimes when we wish for something, like new TVs, new cars, new whatever, that's all fine and dandy, but you're paying an up price for it, and you may think you're saving money. So we have to look at the whole picture. And what I was trying to get at is that there are so many needs right now that we have pushed to the back burner. All these other things are great. If we had a wish list that we could hire all these wonderful people and get this done, I'd be the first one on board. But reality is reality, and the focus needs to be, we need to maintain what we have, or pretty soon we're all going to be sitting here begging. I mean, I know we fought for years just to get the outside of this building painted. And again, if we can get those grants, and I always hear this, and I will tell you this, Patsy this, everybody else in this room, if you know of a grant and you want to share it with us or send it to Alan's secretary, or please send it to Deb Busey, I would encourage it. But that's the only way we're going to get it done. But just because you hear of a grant or you hear a whisper of a grant, they're not always easy to get. I've tried to get some myself. Not here to belabor it. I'm all in favor of doing great things. I wasn't in favor of improving this room. As we heard tonight, a gentleman stated that it could have been used for staff. Everyone's always got a better idea. But I will say this is a nice room now, and I'm glad it's done. So that's, and I think it enhances the county and the image of the county, not just for us, but for everybody that uses it. Enough of my grandstanding. Ms. Busey?
Just as a point of information for newer board members who may not be aware, I don't want you to think we've never applied for a grant. Actually, in the last few years, we've replaced lighting systems in both the courthouse and Brookins through grants that we applied for and received. And we've implemented a lot of sensors so that lights go off when there's no activity in the room. So we have taken steps. We have done what we could in those instances.
If I may, I'm sure, and you make a lot of sense, and that's why you're here to look at those big pictures, but I'm also here to look at these things too. I'm sure there was somebody who sat in a room similar to this in this county 120 years ago who said, why the heck are we going to get rid of these horses when these people bring these goddamn cars into this town? Things will change, and we got to be looking forward while we're taking care of what we have. So the balance, I hope we strike a good balance. Thank you.
I do work for Facilities and Services at the U of I, so James is kind of right. And I am interested in the upgrades to the buildings and taking care of the buildings. And I think we've been through a process here where we went through a lean time of money, and it always happens with facilities that you cut back on facilities. So I'm interested in seeing that we do have some kind of program and understanding of what has to be done in these buildings so that we can go through a process, have a plan rather than just going out and spending the money. So I think that's important. There is no free money in this state, no matter what you say. It may be a free grant, but somebody had to send that money to the state for us to get it. And I do think that we want to go after grants. I'm sure that they have. And the university's got a major program going on right now. It's saving millions of dollars for energy. Of course, they have to put the money in first before they get it out. So just to say that.
On the back page of the agenda, page 9, is a memorandum just giving you the update of currently the projects that were approved the last fiscal year. The limited roof repair and maintenance has been completed by Noble and Black. The masonry repair of the upper parapet around the building by R.D. Cox Masonry is, at this point in time, probably at a day and a half left to complete. They're just being held up by the cold weather and the snow. They're almost there. The shower stall sheeting, I've called selective stalls because the funds were we could only get a certain amount completed with the funds available that was given. So that work is working. It started this week, and next week it should be completed all by the end of next week, as well as the painting by Rossler Construction. We've had some hiccups with one of the subcontractors. The crew has been replaced, and we're working diligently with the Sheriff's Office and Rossler Construction to get this completed. Once again, Sheriff's requested a deadline of next Friday, and we're doing everything we can to get it completed by then. And of course, we have purchased all of the replacement security locks for the corridors, and we are installing them as needed, as we can, as we have time to get to them.
Thank you. Any questions? Do we need, there's nothing, this is just information. Would you bring this back next month when we have a meeting and keep us updated?
I certainly will.
Thank you.
Just trying to, learn how things are run around here. Were these all competitively bid, these contracts?
They were not a full-blown bid package as opposed to what the county would typically put out, but I did receive multiple price quotes and bids from multiple contractors.
Are those usually sealed bids?
Yes, typically, yes, they are.
Okay.
They would be considered that.
And just another quick question, kind of looking at things we can do. What would you say that there are many of these? I mean, adding these up, you're up around $70,000, $75,000, just rough, farm boy math here. That sounds to me like an awful good salary. Would hiring a trained mason, constructor, contractor, someone like that on your staff be someone that could maybe do more of these projects internally in-house rather than bidding them out?
Oh, absolutely. If we could have a mason on staff or a licensed plumber, all that would help us reduce the use of outsourcing with different contractors.
Okay, thank you.
Alan, how easy would it be to summarize for like the last year how much we spent on contract work for masonry and for plumbing so that we could see how that would compare to the salary and the burden cost of hiring someone full-time to do that?
I can supply you a total for the outsourcing we have used this last year. We have all the records in our office. I could tell you it's not a lot at this point in time because there wasn't a lot of funds available for us to hire, but we did some. We have no choice but to outsource occasionally with the limited staff we have to work with and the limited skill level we have. So I can supply that for you, yes.
And as a follow-up, do you have a sense for the rule of thumb of how busy a full-time person would have to be for it to be a win for us. So, you know, if we could keep the plumber busy 80% of the time, we could probably do better than contracting that work, right? And pay for the 20% of time that they're idle. But if we only have 50% of their time full, we could have contracted and it'd be okay. Do you have a sense for how busy someone has to be for it to be worthwhile to bring them on board?
No, I do not have a judgment right now of whether it's a 50% or 75% of what it would take, but I can say that unless this committee funds and has us do a lot of remodeling projects, typically, we can use a plumber who would be qualified to perform the backflow prevention checks and, with multiple sprinkler systems, which has to be done by a licensed plumber or certified. Okay, that would be one particular use that would possibly save us from using an outside contractor. The extra hand would always be helpful if he wasn't actually doing a remodel project or certification or testing or something for the other projects. But I cannot see having a plumber on staff that would be doing nothing but plumbing work year-round.
Quick question. Last year when we were looking at this, I think there was a longer list of things or to-dos we wanted to do at the jail, but we couldn't get them accomplished by year end last year. Can we also next time have a status of those as well? Are they still on your wish list to do at the jail?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, they're still on the wish list to do. They are needed, all of them. And that was just a very short list of items that we thought we could attempt to get completed by the end of the fiscal year, which we did not, obviously, get them all completed. So yes, and we could make that list longer if that's what this committee would like, because it's probably never ending for almost any building about carpet replacement, painting, fixture replacement, mechanical equipment upgrades, replacements. So.
Well, moving on, Chair's report. I just want to say thanks to everybody for being on this committee. I hope everybody participates. I hope that some of you still come to our meetings and listen to all the good things we're going to do. If anybody has any concerns or any bright new ways that we can improve on things, I would appreciate it if you send it to myself, Quisenberry, Alan, and or Deb to make sure it gets to us, and it will be on the agenda. That's one thing that I promise. Things that are brought to us will be put on here. I've spoke with Alan and Deb about one thing I liked when we were in our smaller committee before. We toured the buildings. Not only did we talk about them, we got out and we toured them, and sometimes we would conduct our meetings there. I really don't want to do that in the wintertime because we're tracking in and out, and then people start coughing, and I just don't want to get anybody's flu bug. So I've told Alan maybe in March, April, somewhere down the line, this committee will sit down. And so if there's some place like the nursing home, because Alan has to put all this together and he gets a little bus, or however, if we just want to meet there and have our meeting there also. But I'm open to that, so I'm open to ideas on that. Or we did tour the courthouse one time, but I don't know logistically how easy that is unless we can get in there. And as far as the rest of the board, when we used to do this, we would open it up, and the same 5 of us that went on the tour previously would show up for the next tour, and everybody would always say they wanted to go, or maybe 7. But I'm going to leave that up to Alan and Deb to approach the chair of the board, Mr. Kurtz, and then he can throw it out to the board. And if there wants to be a tour of the buildings some weekend that Alan feels like working and making overtime since he's salaried, that would be wonderful. But I'm going to try and get this committee to tour the buildings that we have oversight on so we have a better feel of it, just like when some of you toured both jails. The other thing that I'd just like to say is that Quisenberry, I'm sorry to hear you only want to be here a short time, but anytime you want to bring something forward, please do. Josh, I'm glad you're a tree hugger and I'm not, but we'll work together well. Jay, I'm glad you're here. Patsy, nursing home time. And the rest of you, we'll enjoy our time together. So with that, I don't think there's anything that needs to go on consent, Deb. All the reports are be filed, and we also have a new lady here tonight doing our minutes for us, and if you want to introduce yourself.
This is Beth Brunk. She is our new administrative assistant. She has taken Renee Wolkin's place, who left the county on December 31st.
Thank you, and hope you do a good job for us. Always leave some of the little side comments out, though, please. Any other business? Rosales.
I had a couple questions. How would this committee interface with the two task force or the one facility, jail facility task force, as well as the assessment that is going on in the jail? Is this committee going to have a role on that? Any interface on that? Any opportunity to question the task force as well as the individual, the ILPP, is it? Individual, so that we could have an opportunity also to address some of our concerns as well? Is that going to happen at any time in the future before he concludes his report and the task force also completes theirs?
Well, I met with the gentleman, and I did talk to him about that. Of course, he's under the direction of the Justice and Social Committee, which he'll be working with them. That'll be something that we can see if he wants to. The gentleman likes to talk and meet with people. He does have a book, if you want to read it. I can probably get you a copy. But he's a very astute gentleman, a very upfront gentleman, and he's got some good ideas, and he's talking to a lot of people in our community. But I will contact Astrid to see if maybe she wants to give a speech or somebody from that committee sometime in the future. And once the report comes out, we'll just see how it goes from there. Or prior to that, I know they're going to be working very diligently because they only have a window of time to get a lot of information crunched and put together. But I will see, or I'll have Deb ask if he would like to attend one of our meetings shortly. Okay? Anything else?
No, that'll be all.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns? If not, I'm not going to ask for motions to adjourn because by the power vested in me, I'm going to declare the meeting over, if I hear no objections. Okay, that's great.